Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and clickers presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin here with Barrett Dudley to discuss and review episode 4 of The Last of Us Season 2 on HBO. How are we doing, Barrett?
Well, it was really nice of us to come do this podcast on location in Seattle.
Yeah, it's just pouring down rain.
It's just pouring down rain right now. It's dark and gray.
Overgrown vegetation
in
the
everywhere.
front and backyard.
Yes, yeah.
That's what we got going on at Bolin Media HQ today.
That's right. The rain of the sort we've never seen. I would go so far as to say, Ross, I don't think we've ever seen rain.
It's dumping.
It's really dumping.
I wonder if the microphones can pick up the thunder.
The thunder that just rolled
would be
through?
cool if they could, but I don't think they will.
Probably not.
I don't
You've
think
got some
they
pretty
will.
high-end stuff here.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Ross. Did you commit to watching all 4 quarters of a certain Houston sports team's game last night?
I dropped out in the 3-minute area
of the fourth quarter.
3-4 minutes left. I was like, yeah, we're done.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's late.
And then
Daddy's got a show to watch.
And you had a show to watch. So you had to follow up that with this.
Straight from a Game 7 playoff elimination into The Last of Us. And it was a little devastating. To be clear, the reason the vegetation is overgrown in my front and backyard of our Bolin Media headquarters house, my lawn guy quit.
Okay.
Just straight up told me.
He's like, I'm
sorry, no more room on the schedule for you.
Got it.
So I keep meaning to reach out to you because I know you've got a.
I do.
You've got a guy.
I've got a guy.
So I'm going to talk to you about your guy off mic
All right.
After the show. But yeah, getting some rain. Nice little storm here. Feels,
apropos.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Is that one word?
That's one word. Yeah.
That's the word. Apropos.
I mean, I could just say appropriate. It feels
appropriate. Feels appropriate for a good Seattle episode. Jeffrey Wright's Isaac has arrived, Barrett. I've got a cool story.
Yeah.
So while Jeffrey Wright was on Westworld, he was one of the main characters on the TV show Westworld.
That's right.
People remember. Shannon Woodward, who played Elsie, not Ellie, Elsie on Westworld. Shannon Woodward, who played Dina in The Last of Us Part 2 as the voice actress. The video game, The Last of Us Part 2, she actually recruited Jeffrey Wright, her Westworld co-star, to be Isaac in the video game.
Okay, all right.
So, and now Jeffrey Wright is playing Isaac in the show as well. So, kind of cool. Has to be fun. The video game came out in 2020, June
What did
of
Shannon
2020.
Woodward play in Last of Us?
She was the voice of Dina. In the Last of Us Part 2 video game.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then what was she? Was Elsie in Westworld?
Yeah.
I do not remember this character.
Little bitty white lady.
Okay, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Her and Jeffrey Wright were compadres. They're characters.
She was like working on the park.
Yeah.
She was working on the, yeah. Now I remember, yeah.
So yeah, Jeffrey Wright did The Last of Us Part 2 voice acting for Isaac, presumably prior to 2020 when the game came out. And then 5+ years later, you're doing the character again, but for a big budget HBO show. Hashtag HBO family. Yeah.
True enough. Yeah.
Barrett, the thing about Isaac is that he became the very thing he hated.
You know what?
And you want to avoid that.
I picked up on that a little bit.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Before we get into our scene-by-scene discussion of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4, later this week, Barrett and I will be releasing another all-new podcast where we take hotline calls from our listeners, answer questions, address theories, and dive deeper on the most important scenes of this episode. That podcast will be ad-free and available exclusively on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles for members of the Clam Fam and Mollusk Militia who are supporting us there. We do not have any sponsors for today's show, so there won't be any ad reads, which means it's all the more important for you to go subscribe on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles and support our podcast if you love what we do so we can keep doing what we're doing. Of note, last week, Barrett and I began coverage of Andor Season 2 with our discussion and review of the first batch of episodes released, episodes 1 through 3 of Andor Season 2, and that discussion and review is available exclusively on Patreon right now. If you do not want any further coverage of The Last of Us for some reason, but you want Andor podcasts, you can join the new Rebel Scum tier and gain access to every Andor Season 2 podcast we drop in the coming weeks. So now we've got The Last of Us hotline calls on Patreon. We've got Andor Season 2 coverage. We've got our entire backlog of ad-free content, including our companion podcast for every single episode of The Sopranos, friendly to first-timers and rewatchers. Hotline call episodes for House of the Dragon, Succession, Severance, The White Lotus, Shogun, and so much more. Movie Club, so much content for so little money. And right now we're offering a 7-day free trial for anyone who wants to check out our Patreon page, see how it works, enjoy the first 3 Hotline Call podcasts for The Last of Us Season 2, and stick around for another one dropping later this week. Head to patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles to support your favorite podcast. That's us.
Yeah. Can I say some things about the Patreon? Just a couple of things that I would note.
Note them.
Severance pods now available to the Clam Fam.
Indeed.
You know, those were behind a separate paywall, unless you were part of the Malice Militia, in which case you just get everything all the time, no matter what. That's the easiest tier to be in, obviously.
Indeed.
But now Clam Fam, our main tier. That's our main menu. I'm going to drop a metaphor on you because I know that the way that we have to do Patreon now to cover a couple of different shows can be a little bit confusing if you're not paying attention all the time.
Yeah.
We got a regular menu. I'm talking in restaurant terms here.
Let's do this.
It's a regular menu.
I like this analogy.
Yeah, and it has just at what we're covering on the Ad Base show. You're going to get a hotline call episode about that show on the regular menu. That's it. If you're in the Clam Fam, you're just getting the regular menu. What we're serving up, that's what you're getting. Right now, it's The Last of Us hotline calls, and then every once in a while, on the big chalkboard up at the front of our restaurant, we put up the specials.
Oh, the specials.
At one point, the special was Severance.
It was.
Now it is Andor.
It is.
But sometimes there might not be any specials. But you might still come to the restaurant, and we got to give you something. So if you're over in the specials tier, but there aren't any specials, we're going to give you the main menu.
Yeah, we're going to give you the regular menu.
We're going to give you the regular menu. But then when a special comes around again, we're going to put it up on that chalkboard and you're going to get the specials again.
Indeed.
Yeah. So that's all of that to say, if you joined for Severance over in the severed floor and you just hung around there and now you're getting Last of Us calls because you're like, oh, this is tight. Well, now that's Andor. So you got to come over back to the main menu to keep getting
Clam
Last
Fam.
of Us calls.
Go to the Clam Fam
That's
tier.
the Clam Fam.
Same price.
I don't know if that metaphor worked at all. Maybe I just made things even more confusing. But it's very easy to switch back and forth between $5 tiers. So just get in there and tool around. But Clam Fam is where you want to be for hotline calls of whatever we're covering on the main show. And then it's more, it's a rotating specials over in Severed Floor, Rebel Scum. Probably going to change it to the stilettos and champagne when we do our special coverage of And Just Like That season 3.
Of course, yeah. Are we the chefs in this analogy? Are we chefs or
we're the chefs? Yeah.
Or
we're
hostesses?
the chefs.
Or we're chefs.
Well, we're all of it.
Chef's choice.
We're back of house and front of house.
Chef's choice, Barrett. Go to patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles today. And if you have any further questions about the Patreon coverage, you can always DM me at WRBolin or just hit DM the Oysters, Clams, and Cockles Instagram or Twitter accounts. I check both of those pretty regularly as well. All right, this one, Season 2, Episode 4 of The Last of Us, is titled Day 1, written by Craig Mazin, directed by Kate Herron. We open in 2018, taking a little trip into the past here. A little flashback.
Yeah.
Into the Seattle quarantine zone, the Seattle QZ, with these Fedra soldiers all in the back of a military vehicle, and one of them's telling a story about how this guy named Greenberg doesn't know the difference between the word disseminate and ejaculate.
Right.
No one asked you, jizz boy.
Cue the close-up on Josh Peck.
Yes, yeah. So one of the soldiers, who is clearly a bit more empathetic and human, asks the main jizz storyteller why they call the citizens voters. And Isaac chimes in, he's played by Jeffrey Wright, and explains...
Sitting over there brooding.
Yeah, just in a shadowy corner.
Yeah.
And he explains that they took away their right to vote, so that's why they started calling them voters, to mock them.
We're mocking them.
Not kind.
Yeah.
Not kind. Turns out Isaac is the commanding officer in this group, right?
Yeah, and Greenberg also he's hearing the word semen and disseminate.
Yeah.
He's hearing the semen.
And that's where
And so he's like, oh, that must have to do with ejaculation and jism.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he just gets
Jizz boy,
hyper-focused
jizz boy,
on
yeah.
hyper-focused on cum.
On the jizz, yeah.
And then can't break away from that. Starts abusing the citizens.
Yeah.
Isaac is the commanding officer, so he goes out to meet with a group of potential WLF, Washington Liberation Front people that have gathered in the street. He brings the more empathetic and human soldier with him, right? He's like, you, guy who has feelings, you're coming with me. Mm-hmm. And he spares his life that way. So he goes up to this woman, and she's like, you Isaac? And he's like, you Hanrahan? And I was like, excuse me?
Was it Hanrahan?
Excuse me, what? Hanrahan?
Oh,
Her name is Hanrahan.
All one word.
Hanrahan.
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 Oh, okay. Do you know what I thought he called him? I thought he called her a code name, Hammerhand.
Hammerhands.
Hammerhand. Dead serious. Yeah. No, I thought like he's just they've been incommunicado.
Right. They've clearly had some type of contact.
Yes, some back channeling, and she goes by code name Hammerhand.
Hammerhand. Yeah, I've never heard the name Hanrahan before,
Hanrahan,
and the only I watched it with subbies in my rewatch this morning, and was like, okay, Hanrahan. But you know what? We're going to call her Hammerhand.
Hammerhand, yeah, I think Hammerhand
So
works.
pretty quickly becomes apparent that Isaac set up this meeting with Hammerhand and the WLF as he takes 2 grenades from his belt loop, pops the pins, and rolls them back into the truck that he just got out of before slamming and barring the doors. So all those guys are dead.
Yeah.
The last conversation they had was about jizz.
Yeah.
It's not the way you want to go out.
But this was cold, man. This was a cool scene. Very
I literally wrote cold scene.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Very heist movie-esque, like double. You got a double cross basically. The way that Jeffrey Wright so coolly just walks back up to the truck and pulls the pins, drops the grenades.
So nonchalant.
Yeah,
and he gives it that beat where he's like, all right, got to go do this.
Yep.
Follow through with what I set up here.
Yeah.
That was really sick.
And then I liked you could read it as cliche, but they kind of thought they pulled it off when he cut to newbie and he's like, now make your choice.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
Yes. So Hammerhand tells him, welcome to the fight. He turns to that young soldier he brought with him. Now make your choice. Roll opening credits.
Yeah.
Great little scene to start. Great introduction to Isaac.
Yes. And fills in a lot of a very quick way to fill in a lot of this backstory, right?
Yep.
Fedra, WLF, we're at it, and
he thought he was on the wrong side,
and WLF is the Wolves have clearly won this battle, I would say,
in the present day.
Yes.
Well, I think it's still kind of ongoing based on what the Seraphites have informed us of.
You think it's a 3-way fight?
I think so.
Okay.
I think Fedra's still involved
think
here.
They're still out there?
But
Still
we'll
think there's a small faction of Fedra?
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. But we bounce forward 11 years later to the present with Dina and Ellie as they root through an old pharmacy, and Dina comes across something that we aren't allowed to see, which later turns out to be a pregnancy test, and we'll get to that. But this is Seattle, day 1. Really ominous labeling.
That they call it, yeah, it is.
For what's going to happen here in Seattle. Didn't love that. Didn't feel good about that. So Ellie...
Oh, God, how many days are we
Yeah, I know, dude. Day 1? What? So... Ellie and Dina ride into Seattle on Shimmer, Ellie's horse, and they immediately notice a lot of rainbow imagery around the area of town that they're in.
Yes, and this is very clearly reflected in the colorful stripes on Dina's jacket, which I noticed in earlier episodes. I didn't mention it, but I did. I just thought it was a very eye-catching piece of wardrobe, right? To put on Dina, who is maybe coming to terms with her sexuality, right?
Right. And she had it on all episode 3.
Yeah. And so
it's a cool jacket.
And I thought that was kind of a notable reflection here as they kind of see all the rainbows and the pride stuff, and Dina's kind of got on that rainbow striped jacket too.
And this show likes to do repetitive imagery, right? Mm-hmm. We had all the butterflies in season 1, which I should say the video game liked to do repetitive imagery because the show is taking that from the game. Yeah. Dina says, what's up with all the rainbows? And Ellie's like, I don't know. Maybe they were all optimists. So they have no context for,
pride.
Rainbows being representative of queer pride in any way, shape, or form. But quickly, they're out of Happy, Proud Rainbow Town, as Ellie puts it, and they're staring at an old, overgrown tank and a bunch of dead Fedra soldiers. They notice a satellite dish atop a building with WLF graffitied onto it, and Ellie, being a moron, immediately wants to go. She's like, all right, there it is. Let's go. Straight to the satellite to seek out the WLF. So Dina has to explain that if you're putting up a big sign that's large enough to see for miles, then you're probably okay with people coming and you're probably prepared. And then she like gives Ellie a chance to try to put together the rest of the, like, you know, and they're on a hill.
Yeah.
So they'll see us coming on horseback, and it's broad daylight right now. So maybe, Ellie, we should pump the brakes. Thank God for Dina.
They've got the high ground.
Yes.
Much like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith.
Is it Revenge of the Sith?
I think it's the last one of the prequels. Yeah.
I have the high ground.
The high ground.
Yeah, people know that line.
Yeah.
Famous meme now. So Ellie and Dina go into a record store, a music store, and Dina starts jacking around on some drums downstairs. You see a drum set, you have to play it, you know, even if it's the apocalypse.
I mean, right. Like, you're sort of supposed to be quiet, but drum kit, you have to bang around on that thing.
You gotta. Ellie goes upstairs and finds the guitar room. Not sure if you remember this.
Maybe you see a drum kit and you have to drop trowel and put your nuts on it because your new 40-year-old stepbrother told you, do not touch
my
the
drum set.
Yeah, do not touch my drum set. That's the one rule. And you have to violate that rule
to start a stepbrother fight.
To start a stepbrother war, yeah. Exactly.
In a comedy called Step Brothers.
That's right.
Yes. Not sure if you remember this. Joel was a guitar guy.
He was. Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
So this is symbolic here. That's what's happening. You know? That's why when she walks into the room and sees all the guitars, she's like, remember that guy that I traveled around the country with that died in 2 episodes ago?
Right.
Yeah. So Ellie does a guitar cover of some generic 1980s song, probably just some public domain music they used in the video game. Total crap, dog shit, really. Definitely not Nirvana. No, clearly I'm kidding. It's Aha with Take On Me.
Take On Me.
Take On Me. Great 80s song, right?
Very good 80s song.
Dina comes up. Ellie keeps on singing. This scene went on for much longer than I expected. I was like, we're gonna sing multiple verses. We're gonna do the whole song.
We'll hit the bridge. We'll do the chorus. Yeah.
Impressive stuff. Now, Bella Ramsey does have a pretty voice, but I noticed the way they shot this, and they clearly spend like a long time lingering on Dina's emotional reaction, her visceral reaction to Take On Me.
Yeah.
I think they had to do kind of a lot of takes, is my point here. I'm not sure she just like crushed Take On Me.
Yeah. So they do note after the episode that Bella Ramsey can play guitar. Now, unfortunately, you would not know that by watching this scene. I liked this scene. I thought it was pretty. I really, really, really liked Isabella Merced's reaction and visuals here.
Yeah,
like,
that was cool.
The way that she lets this affect her, you can see it in her eyes. I thought it was it's a funny moment when she's like, she's kind of tearing up. She's like, you got pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, like that was really like heartfelt and good. And I liked what was happening here. And Bella Ramsey, I thought, did a nice, not live, of course, I thought, as you're saying, like you could kind of tell that this was...
They had to do some movie magic here.
Yeah, which is fine. I think it really was Bella singing. I felt like you can hear her voice in this. And so
definitely.
I thought overall the scene was very nice, and I thought it was impactful. The way that you can hear the guitar strings being plucked in this little acoustic version very, very, very clearly does not match up with what Bella is doing with her fingers on the guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the part that was like, I feel like you could have massaged this a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I'll overlook it because overall I think this scene is cute. So
and it worked.
Yeah,
the scene worked.
Yeah.
It just... this is a tough thing to pull off.
Yeah,
like it's a little awkward because it's so intimate and emotional, right? But I thought they did it. I thought, you know, despite maybe some of the awkwardness, it worked the way it was supposed to. It was supposed to be awkward,
Bella
too.
has a perfectly good singing voice. Like this is not Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo going live on the set of Wicked. You know what I mean? Like
right,
they famously were singing live on that set.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she's not a performer like in that way.
She's doing her best, though. Yeah. Don't love the lyrics saying, I'll be gone in a day or two, which is like the ending. You know.
Well, at least she didn't say, I'll be gone in day 1 or day 2.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would just make it even more specific. It just felt, I thought it was a little ominous there too, the way those are the final lyrics in the song. Like, okay, fuck. Yeah. So from there, we jump over to WLF Isaac, who is firing up a stove and explaining that when he was a younger man, he would use his cooking skills to pull girls because he didn't really know how to talk to them.
Wait, hang on. We got to go back to the guitar for one sec.
Let's go back.
My only other thing was that she's like, Joel was a good, didn't she say some things about Joel taught me well, he was a good teacher, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
She's been working with Joel.
She credits Joel.
Does Joel seem like the type of guitar teacher that's like, hey, you know what song I want to teach you? Aha's Take On Me.
No, but I think Ellie has expressed an interest in 80s music specifically.
Okay. All right.
And if you remember the code back in Boston, 1980s music meant trouble was coming.
That's right.
So I think it was just supposed to tie to all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So it was probably an Ellie request.
Yeah.
To answer your question, no. I don't think Joel was like, and now we're going to learn a cover of Aha's Take On Me. He's more of like a Johnny Cash type of, you know what I mean? Yeah. So Isaac in this he's in a kitchen. He's got this stove set up, and he's talking about how he would go to Williams-Sonoma and fantasize about getting Mouviel. You know, saucepans. Yeah. They're French, of course.
Copper.
The best. Copper. So you got to polish them a lot. Kind of annoying. Got to keep them polished, but great copper cookware. And now he has some strange benefits of the apocalypse, he says. Now, as he's doing this speech, immediately flagged, like, who's he talking to? Little weird that they're not showing us who he's talking to. And within like 20 seconds, I was like, he's going to be doing some bad stuff here. He's going to be doing some torture.
Yeah, I didn't see any eggs sitting on the counter.
Yeah.
You know? So my
where were the foods?
Yeah, my hope for him just whipping up a French omelet, you know,
went out the window
pretty quickly there. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is interrogating a scar, as he calls him, a scar, the Seraphites.
I was pretty close though.
You were close
with my moniker that I gave them last week of Cheekies.
The Cheekies. So now we got three names for these folks: the Cheekies, as they are known by Barrett, the Scars. When it's a singular
kind of
one, it's just a scar.
Derogatory, kind of a slur.
A little bit, yeah.
You know?
And then they want to be called Seraphites, right?
Yeah.
So he's trying to get information about where the Seraphites are going to attack next, which alludes to, you know, the conflict that Barrett pointed to earlier when I said I think that Fedra's probably still involved here. Mm-hmm. Well, it does seem that this Seattle war might just be Seraphites versus WLF.
Right.
What's strange about it is the group we met in the woods seemed to be almost like non-violent and fleeing the war. So maybe there's separate factions of Seraphites.
That's kind of my read, yeah.
And I guess Isaac does allude to that as well, because he says something along the lines of like, he's like, you know, there are scars who understand that your prophet wasn't a magic fairy in the sky, that she was just a person, which is, of course, like some kind of allegory for Christianity. But his victim, this scar that he's torturing, says, heretics. And he's like, yeah, okay.
Right. There clearly have, you know, as with any religion, there are the more devout, there are extremists, and then there are, you know, your more kind of
casual
believers, or sometimes they call them like liberal, but like less in the sense of like politics, and just like, you know, you kind of abide by the things that work for you, and don't take everything like
you pick and choose,
to the T. Yeah.
Don't take everything so literally. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So that makes sense that there would be, you know, some factions here of the Seraphites. They've been going for at least 11 years. And, you know.
Oh yeah, because even in the military vehicle at the beginning of the episode, in the flashback scene, the guy telling the Jizz Boy story says like, at first he thought they were a rebel group, but then they had some religious papers on him, but he didn't understand those or something. So the point is, there was a line delivered at the top of the episode that was supposed to indicate to us that both the WLF and the Seraphites separately have been going since at least that flashback to, what year was it? 2018. 2018, right? So the Seraphite explains to Isaac that the Seraphites are going to win because every day a wolf leaves the pack to take the holy mortification and become a Seraphite, but no Seraphites ever leave to become wolves.
I liked that.
It was a good little speech, yeah. Anyway, the Scar does not give up any information, ends up just being like, torture me more.
He's ready for the next pan to
Has his hand out already.
Hand.
Yeah, pan to the hand. And so Isaac executes him with a pistol. Now, there is some there's detail in the way this unfolds to give you a judgment of Isaac as well, because clearly, like we touched on jokingly at the top of the pod, he's kind of become
totally
the thing it seems like you would be against when you're joining a rebel group, right? But at the same time, he doesn't take the pan to his hand for round 2. He recognizes this guy's not going to give me anything and just ends it right there, almost mercifully. Like, this is a naked, religious fanatic
Zealot,
that he is torturing for information.
Right.
And they even give us the line, like, he's like, you put an arrow in a little kid's head. So, like, this guy killed a child. They get into the child soldier stuff. He's like, well, you guys kill children. And he's like, well, we kill the children because you train the children to shoot at us. So, yeah, we have to shoot back. And then they do the whole, like, we don't even know who started this conflict, one-upping each other thing.
Right, yeah.
Like, you broke the truce. Well, no, you broke the truce. Well, we broke the truce because you broke the truce because we broke the truce. And it's like, it doesn't matter. I'm not playing this game with you.
Yeah.
There's just one of those things that gets touched on in literature and TV shows a lot, which is like, you get to a certain point, people forget how it even began. Right? So, brutal scene here. Did you enjoy?
Did I enjoy the torture scene?
The Isaac character development, sort of I don't think this is what we expected to see when we see him present day.
Yeah. And I liked it's...
And the torture. Did you like the torture?
And then, we get the kind of the stinger there of that scene where we cut to the kind of guy that was empathizing with the voters and not sure that he was into it, right? Like this whole macho... teeth flying everywhere,
jokes,
all that. Like, I don't know about all that. He clearly made the decision to join the rebellion, and now here he is, fully jaded, calloused, like calling the Scar a fucking animal, got what he deserved, right?
Yep.
So we're, they're laying it on pretty thick here about how the WLF has just replaced what it was what it was trying to overcome,
end.
Right, and end, right, which is a story as you've said, we see all the time. Like this is
this happens with the humans,
and this is a common beat in storytelling, especially when it comes to these types of stories.
So you got hammer hand, you got pan hand,
right? Yeah, all the hands. So that's fine with it. That was good. I can just drop in right here. I really, really liked this episode. I thought performances were strong throughout, had amazing set pieces. The more I thought about this episode, the more I was like, we kind of did this in Kansas City last year.
We did.
We sort of had this almost this episode
that shows you
at
like
least this piece of this style of storytelling with the Kansas City episode as well,
where that group had Melanie Linsky's group had taken down Fedra, and then ended up being worse than Fedra, and then they're dealing with their own rebels that are rebelling against them, and on goes the cycle, right?
So there are new wrinkles here, obviously,
religious faction instead of
I'm never going to be upset with getting like a killer Jeffrey, no pun intended, Jeffrey Wright performance.
But to your point, I would like to see this differentiate itself from that Kansas City situation in some way, shape, or form. Because it will get a little old if we just keep doing the, the humans that take out their oppressors eventually become the oppressors. Right. Like that's gonna, we got enough of that going on in the real world. Jeffrey Wright is incredible. This is great work from him with this character. It's everything he's ever been cast in, he crushes. This guy's awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, this hits on sort of that like Dark Knight feeling, die and be a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain thing, right? It's all that analogy. So Ellie and Dina move into another building. They find a dude full of arrows wearing the WLF gear, right? Another piece of information that comes out of the Isaac torture scene, he's like, how the hell are y'all going to beat us? We've got fully automatic weapons. We've got hospitals.
Right.
We got military. You guys are running around with bow and arrows, superstition, and bolt action rifles.
That's right, yeah.
So we were curious about what the deal is with these people and their hammers. You know?
Yeah.
Not talking about hammer hands.
Not hammer hands, yes.
Different hammers.
Right.
But, and whether or not they were anti-gun. Well, it sounds like they do use guns, but only up to a certain point. Bolt action rifles, the ones that they're not using semi-automatic or automatic weapons.
Right.
So it will be interesting to see how that unfolds.
That they just don't have that stuff at the
Could be, I
moment,
guess,
right?
yeah.
Right? That they've not been able to get their hands on it. But yeah.
I took it as some kind of a stance, though. Like they have some sort of belief that keeps them from going all the way. Because I don't know. It just struck me as odd. They're using bow and arrows on people, though. This guy's got like 7 or 8 arrows in him.
Yeah, my main takeaway was that WLF is fully militarized, and these guys are the Seraphites are a more lo-fi guerrilla rebel group.
There you go. Yeah. So the next room that Ellie and Dina walk into, it's a bunch of WLF hung up from the ceiling with their guts pulled out and intestines coming out of their bodies.
Yeah, when I texted you last night and I was like, hey, good news, Ross, super chill episode, I almost also just added, no guts. Definitely no guts.
Yeah, so many guts here.
There were so many guts.
It's dark scene.
Very dark. This was a really cool set. They're outside of it's like an old broadcast TV news studio or something, and they're like looking around for how to get in. I didn't really catch what they said about going through the downstairs doors, but eventually Dina like clocks the broken window and suggests that they go Subarize upstairs, and. One person's going to get that, and it's going to be worth it.
Well, at least one. I've got it, so yeah.
And but yeah. So when we get into the gut scene, they're like, it's in the studio, right? They're like hanging above the old news studio.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
And they borrowed the team from Game of Thrones, or from House of the Dragon, rather, and they used real stunt men and women hanging up there on the little, harness thingies.
Gnarly.
To make it super authentic.
Really, really gross stuff. Again, gives you this context of like, well, if you look at this room, you're like, yeah, maybe we should kill all the Seraphites.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Clearly a theme they're going to continue to play with this season is like who the bad guy is depends on where you're standing. And if you're standing in this room, the bad guys are the Seraphites.
And then what does the blood on the wall say?
Blood on the wall says, feel her love.
Feel her love.
With the Seraphite symbol.
That's right.
Dina's like, what the fuck is wrong with Seattle?
Pretty dark.
But when that dude is being tortured by Isaac in the prior scene, he keeps saying something like, her love is in me, her love is on me, I'm filled with her love, or whatever.
Like repeating a prayer.
He's a mantra.
Yeah.
And clearly this is something that these folks are, they cling to. So Dina starts puking again, and at this point you've probably figured out, like, oh, shit. But we'll get there.
No, not me.
Really?
Yeah,
you had no clue. You know what it is? It's because Severance and what's her name taking off her shoes and everybody being like, she's pregnant! Made you not want to go down that road.
Yeah, we're finally getting the pregnancy storyline that everybody wanted in Severance. No, I was just like, because she had thrown up when she saw the massacre of the Seraphites, I was just like, she did this here, and I was just like, man, Dina really, like, for somebody that's so willing to go on this like murder mission, she really like doesn't have the stomach for dead bodies.
Well, and this is what should have gotten you there, Barrett, because we had seen her already like taking out clickers, no problem. See a bunch of dead bodies at that outside of that market before they go in and take out those clickers, and like
true.
So even last week there were non-gamer, just TV watchers who were like, oh no, Dina's going to be pregnant. And I was kind of like, nah, I think they were just showing how brutal this one scene is. But when she puked here, I was like, fuck.
Yeah, okay.
So before you know it, WLF soldiers show up to this situation with all the hanging from the Seraphites, and they're searching the room for any remaining scars. One thing leads to another. Ellie has to use her MMA skills to choke out one of the soldiers while Dina shoots another, and then they bail out of a window.
We knew that opening scene was going to come back into play.
It had to.
We had to, yeah.
Here it was.
Yeah, here it was.
She's got this dude in a fucking full Nelson chokehold. I know that's not the exact.
No. That was exactly it.
But don't yell at me, MMA people. So the WLF gives chase. Ellie and Dina end up escaping into a mass transit tunnel, which is never good.
I'm gonna be on you like a spider monkey, Talladega Nights.
That's how she is, though, dude. That's how she attacks, like a spider monkey on the back, choking him out.
How many Will Ferrell movie references can I make today, Russ?
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We're at 2.
Yeah.
We're at 2. 2 Will Ferrell movie references, one Haggard reference.
Yes, yeah.
So it takes all of 20 seconds for the WLF to show up in this tunnel with flares, which are bad. People should stop using flares.
They gotta quit that, man.
Quit it with the flares,
Don't
guys.
you know that when a flare touches Gus, that leads to bad things?
Gus wakes up. Gus communicates to other Gus. More Gus shows up because of your stupid fucking flare. Yeah, the one flare lands next to some cordyceps, and before you know it, an entire horde shows up, attacks the WLF. Pretty incredible scene here. Very tense.
Super. I mean, straight
Love
from
Dina doing the counting.
Oh, that
she
was
can
so,
hear
yeah.
1. She can hear 2,
Yeah.
3, and then she gets to 5, and she's like, "I've run out of fingers."
Very good.
And there's more.
Yeah. She's very good at recognizing the individual sounds, the unique sounds of each clicker, bloater, stalker, or otherwise.
And I love the way they did that too, because you could recognize.
You can hear it as well. But from when the WLF backup reinforcements come into the studio, just great tension building. You're really, one of the things that we talked about this in season 1, I really, really like it when this show is able to sort of give you a video game like feel in a sort of in like an underlying way, right?
Like that's a perfect example.
I don't want to watch the video game, but it's nice when you can kind of feel the bones of of how a mission might or a level might kind of play out.
And
right?
this is often the case in The Last of Us video games, at least the first one that I have played, where you enter a space and then it's like, oh no, bad guys are here.
Yes.
How do I sneak out of this?
Yeah. This is classic stuff. If you've ever played any type of RPG, first person shooter or whatever. What is it? What is Last of Us? An RPG?
I don't know.
More so than
I don't know what it classifies as.
Anyway, this is a common thing, right? Like you're saying, you get stuck in a room and you have to either sneak or stealth or fight your way out, and you can feel that tension. Like when they come in and they're hiding behind, they're going to do a sweep, and it's going to be hard for them to stay unseen. Impossible, really.
Right.
And so it's great how all that builds, and then they have to crawl through the tiny little space.
Brutal. Hell.
Get to the subway station where they're going to be trapped, and then how are they going to get out of this? Well, they're not, but they will be bailed out sort of by an absolutely massive horde. So this is just and then it's off to a whole different level of terror, right? So just once again another brilliant set piece on the show.
The Last of Us is technically an action-adventure game.
Action-adventure, okay. All right.
Not a role-playing game, not an RPG. But yeah, infected banging on the boxcars while Ellie and Dina are making their way through. That was hell. It was reminiscent of the scene with Abby, when she's going through the chain link fence situation.
Yep.
Eventually, Ellie and Dina have to get through a turnstile gate where Ellie reaches out her arm and saves Dina from being bitten by taking the bite for her. This, of course, results in the scene that I unfortunately knew was coming due to last week's trailer containing too much spoilery stuff. But it was fun nonetheless. It just, if you heard me last week complaining about how I'm out on the inside the episode stuff, I did not watch this week's, for example, because last week contained a scene where they showed Dina pointing the pistol at Ellie, and I went immediately, because I'm a smart boy, Ellie's gonna get bit. Dina doesn't know she's immune. Dina's gonna almost shoot Ellie, but of course you have to know Dina's not gonna shoot Ellie. So watching this whole thing unfold, I was kind of like, I know where the end game is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't love that I knew that.
Yes, that was. If you had watched the trailer for, or next on basically for The Last of Us, you see Dina point the gun at Ellie, and like you said, if you're a smart boy, your brain immediately jumps to, well, Dina's not going to suddenly turn on Ellie. That's not where this is going.
So clearly she got bit.
Clearly she got bit.
And clearly she's not going to kill her because there's no way in a 4-episode span
Right.
we lose Joel and then Ellie.
Now, that piece is, even if I hadn't known that this was likely a plot point on this episode, even once you get here, you still know that she's not going to shoot.
Yeah, it takes some of the gravity out of
So-
it. I'm not. You're right. That's a good argument. That's a good point.
But yeah, it was, still a tense scene. It was a good kind of almost like, I don't know if it was the climax necessarily, but it's this kind of
It's a big moment.
this coda on the thrill, the chase that they've just been on.
When it gets us more into post Joel, The Last of Us, where like with Joel, it was like, you never tell a soul that you're immune. It stays just between us. No one can know.
Yeah.
And now, he's been dead for like, a fucking week?
Right.
Well, no, longer than that, because it took him a long ass time to travel
Months.
to Seattle.
Months. That's right.
But now there's another person she has to trust
Yeah.
with this information. Ellie does an absolutely terrible job of explaining to Dina that she's immune. It would have been the first thing that came into my head, but again, I'm a smart boy. So, yeah, great move, reaching the arm out, taking the bite, saving Dina's life, awesome stuff. But pretty immediately, you should be going, I'm immune, don't shoot me in the fucking head while we're running. Like, it just doesn't even occur to her
Yeah.
that will, like, and considering the fact that she's been in a scenario with a wannabe lover, where they both got bit before, like, you would think she'd game plan for this. Anyway, Dina almost having to kill Ellie, like, serves as proof to Dina that she loves Ellie. And was always lying to herself about liking boys. Her mom tried to make her like boys, but
Well, no,
she
I
likes girls.
think she likes both.
I don't know. My takeaway by the end was she basically had been forcing herself to have relationships with men.
Well, the story that she tells though, she's like she tells her mom that she likes boys and she likes girls.
And her mom is like,
her
no,
mom's like,
you
no,
like girls. Or no, you like boys.
No, you just like boys.
You like boys.
So it feels like I was getting the sense that she is and that she likes both, but has been pushing down that attraction to women her entire life.
Yeah, just the way she talks about Jesse. She's like, I do think he's a really good guy, like, but regardless of her exact sexuality, the point was her mother tried to pressure her into not being bisexual or gay, and she had to come to terms with it eventually, and that's obviously a common trope in the queer community. So
a common experience.
A common experience, yeah. So yeah, she loves Ellie, and they're gonna make a polypod with her BD Jesse.
Yeah. How did you feel about like the pregnancy reveal lead into sexy times?
I mean, again, okay, 10 scenes, but like you said, even if you didn't catch the next time or this season on The Last of Us, I don't think anybody thought Dina was going to kill Ellie. Going from I'm pregnant straight to make out and hand stuff was a little surprising.
Yeah.
I guess. I was just kind of like, whoa, okay, well, all right, what? Sure, why not? Pretty sure Jesse might take exception to Ellie just being like, oh, it's my baby too.
Yeah, okay.
Ellie goes, holy shit, I'm going to be a dad. And I was like, hold on now.
That felt a little Michael Scott when Jan goes and like gets it, does IVF like with some sperm donor, right? And then Michael's basically is like treating it as if it's going to be
his child. Right. Which,
even though he's not even together with Jen anymore, it was a little bit of that.
It was strange. It was
like,
a strange assumption.
Y'all have just crossed the threshold where you're acknowledging that you're into each other, and now you're a co-parent,
just like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess the feel is supposed to be that they're all so close that it's like, oh, this is all of our baby, but. It just felt a little strange not having
our nausea.
Not having Jesse be part of that conversation at all, and Ellie just sort of assuming, like, well, you and me have hooked up once, so it's also my baby. That was just, it was sort of a big leap to see her deliver that "holy shit, I'm going to be a dad" line.
Yeah, and I get it. This has moved very fast. They're kind of acknowledging that maybe this has kind of always been there. Dina is talking about this life that she envisions with Ellie, and Ellie's like, it kind of like that's what I see too.
Yeah, we thought the White Lotus staff moved quickly. These folks are just right on to planning their whole life together.
Yeah, I guess they're like just like, okay, well, we are going to be together now, and you are going to have this child. Therefore, by like transitive property, like I'm going to be involved in this child's life and help
be its dad
and help your parent. So ipso facto, there it is. But yes, it was a big leap, even just post one night hookup.
Now, take away reading into all of that, and the main thing for me, the main realization based on the holy shit I'm going to be a dad line delivery and the entire conversation between Ellie and Dina here was that it seems extremely unlikely to me that we see Dina giving birth to a baby. Meaning, Dina gonna die.
Okay.
That was what I walked away from that scene with, was more ominous vibes. Because, like, the fairy tale ending that they're painting here, oh, we'll be together. We'll be the polypod. I know it's a polycule. I don't care. I call it a polypod. Me, you, Jesse, we'll all have this baby and raise this baby. Like, that seems so flowery. And nothing about this show indicates to me that there's going to be a happy ending of any kind. So I got really, really worried about Dina here, and then I get more worried because the episode ends with Ellie and Dina hearing some WLF action in the distance from their walkie-talkie that they grabbed off one of the dead. They hear the name Nora mentioned. Nora was in Abby's crew.
Yes, yep.
So they go up high, as is tradition, to see how far away the action is. It's like several miles. There are a lot of explosions going on over there, like bombs, grenades, whatever. Clearly a lot of fighting. It's a war zone.
Yeah.
And Ellie tries to talk Dina out of going, tells her she can stay, basically because she's pregnant. Like, our circumstances have changed.
Now.
It's not just you, it's a whole other life, right? But Dina refuses, and that's when I was like, oh, Dina is so toast. This is going to be so sad. So... I could be wrong. But
You could be.
It made me feel really worried about what's coming down the pipeline, the way that convo unfolds with them, and then going straight up to the roof and seeing a fucking war taking place and her trying to be like, Dina, you don't have to come. And I was hopeful. I was like, ooh, maybe in the game this actually happens and like Ellie splits off from Dina and you have to play solo for a little while again, just as Ellie. But then Dina refuses, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a goddamn nightmare.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're at after episode 4.
It definitely creates another heightened level of tension, right?
You need stakes
to be watching these two now and know that Dina's with child. So, yeah. God,
I did honestly.
These HBO shows, man, they cannot stay away from the pregnant storylines.
Can't help themselves. It was funny because when she's whipping out all the pregnancy tests, she's like, see, I peed on this and it says 2 lines and that means I'm pregnant. And Ellie's like, well, yeah, but this is really old. I was like, good, Ellie, good. Press on that. And she's like, well, I also have this one and this one and this one and this one. And Ellie's like, oh, but me in bed watching this, I was like, yeah, but those are all the same brand.
All old.
And they're all old, but they all looked like the same brand.
They all,
like, If she tried like 3 different brands and they all hit, like when my wife and I got pregnant, we tried 2 different brands to be sure, you know.
But you're a smart boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I was still going, well, maybe she's not.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure she is. But I'm just saying, I was like holding out hope because that's such a complicated situation now. And it's concerning. Like if they were like, oh my God, you're pregnant, we should really go back to Jackson, that would have been tight. But like, that's not what happened. They were like, we should go towards this war zone.
Yeah. You'd think after, I mean, it's kind of insane that after the little, the craziness that the little adventure that they just went on in this episode, that they're like, oh, well, okay, we press on.
Yeah. Even though that just happened.
They're seeing that this town is owned by a fully militarized WLF, and they're still going to attempt this.
And there are still a ton of infected.
Yeah.
Out here, especially below ground.
Yeah.
Seems to be, they're really harping on this, like, the infected are below ground thing.
True.
Like, that's
since season 1.
Happened in Kansas City as well. Happened here again.
Yeah.
They like it down there because they don't like the sunlight. Remember? something about the sunlight makes them like too bright. It's too bright. Yeah. So, but I'll say this: another positive here. We lost Joel in episode 2.
Yeah.
And the big question for TV viewers, and I think it was even more important and impactful for TV viewers than for gamers. For gamers, it's like, damn it, I don't get to play as Joel anymore. How does this game go on? I get it, but like still, there was a lot of video game to go, and you still had characters to be and things to do, and so the action didn't just fucking stop, is my point. But as a TV viewer, you're hoping, okay, now this is a huge transition. The show is becoming Ellie's. This is Bella Ramsey's show now. Can they introduce enough other characters to fill the void left by Joel? And I think in just 2 episodes, they have achieved that feat through the introduction of Isaac, played by Jeffrey Wright this week. That's a big one.
Yep.
But also adding fuel to the Ellie-Dina fire and then raising the stakes by having Dina get pregnant, creating the polypod with Jesse and Ellie. And then seeing that the WLF situation in Seattle is indeed like a violent war zone with, we as of this point, believe against the Seraphites, some religious faction.
Yeah.
And that there are still a ton of infected as well. Like, I don't know. I think my concerns about if the show could still make itself like weighty enough for me to feel super bought in have been alleviated by the end of episode 4. I hate the way they've done it because I don't want to watch more sadness and suffering. Yeah. But like it does feel like what we've signed up for here. So
it does, yeah. We asked the question after last episode, like, okay, obviously the Cheekies are going to be an important piece of the puzzle here.
We figured they would be. It was too much detail to that introduction.
Too much detail it was very random to just drop in and then like not come back to. So they come back to that pretty quickly, and I thought I think it was a pretty good addition. I'm finding the war between this kind of like religious group that is kind of becoming militarized, against the WLF who is in control of Seattle. Like that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. And something that we did not really see in season 1. So I'm here for that.
And I like the whole "is anyone really right in war" thing that they're doing, which is sort of an escalation from the version of that we've played with through season 1, where it's, because it's an important question, and it's one that you don't really ask yourself a lot when you're young, and then the older you get, the more you're like, should anybody really be doing this?
Yeah.
Is there ever really an excuse to like bomb out a building when you don't know who's in there, type of thing?
Right.
So I'm curious to see how that continues. We only have 3 left. There's only 7 episodes in this season, and that was episode 4. So I expect things to kind of look. It's one nice thing about having a shorter season. There's not a lot of lulls. Like that was a pretty intense, action-packed episode, minus the like 20-minute pause for Ellie, Dina.
Yeah,
love life planning.
We talked about like the post Pedro, post Joel version of this show. I was expecting to see Abby more regularly.
I was about to ask you, how do you feel about not showing Abby at all in episode 3 or 4?
So I'm not sure when we're going to get her, to be quite honest. It doesn't seem like we are going to cut over to her POV to see what is going on with them. I think it feels like we are riding with Ellie probably for the rest of the season here.
I got to assume.
And I'm not sure what we'll cut away to see. I don't know if we'll... we got a little bit of a flashback here to 2018, but it was just for the opening sequence. Are we gonna see Tommy? Are we gonna see Jackson at all? Are we gonna see anything else that Abby's doing? Are we kind of waiting for what I imagine will be some sort of like cliffhanger-y moment between Ellie and Abby towards the end of the season?
My guess would be that into the season we get an Abby moment, but that's going to be a season 3 storyline.
Seems like that's more of a season 3 storyline.
That season 2 is going to be focused more. I have to assume that Ellie and Dina run into Isaac.
Yeah.
And somehow get connected there.
Got it.
Because we've got the setup in Seattle,
Right,
but we
right.
can't just keep going between WLF and Seraphites. Our main characters have to be wedged in somehow.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And it feels like they've made Isaac into a complicated enough gray character to where it's like, I don't see Ellie and Dina meeting up with the Seraphites and being like, sure, we'll do the Scar thing and become cheekies with you. Like, you know what I mean? I think they probably, they're going over there to try to find these members of the WLF that they've encountered.
Yeah.
I think they're going to find Isaac instead, and somehow there's going to be something with that.
Okay.
I would also assume we have to check back in with Jackson. As I've mentioned repeatedly, it just doesn't really make sense to cast Catherine O'Hara to build out Jackson as a town and then abandon Jackson.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I'm not sure how we'll get back to Jackson or what will be going on there exactly, but I assume we'll check in there before the end of the season as well. So there's kind of a lot to accomplish in a 3-episode timeline.
Is there any chance that Dina goes back to Jackson?
Because she's pregnant?
Yeah. I know she says that she's riding with
I don't
Ellie
know
right
why
now.
they do that scene if then they're going to change their mind. And frankly, Dina can't go back to Jackson alone.
I was just about to say.
So Ellie would have to go with her,
It
and
does
that
seem like
feels unlikely right now.
It's a big trek for one.
Yeah, she can't do that solo.
Yeah.
And they only got the one horse.
That's right.
So, yeah, we'll save the rest of our questions for later this week on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles, where we will dive deeper into this episode and the biggest scenes and take hotline calls from our listeners, asking us questions, throwing out theories. We even take some calls with insights from gamers to let us know how things unfolded on the show compared to on the video game. No spoilers for what's coming, obviously. Patreon.com/oystersclamscockles. Go now. You can enjoy a 7-day free trial. See how awesome those first 3 hotline call-driven The Last of Us Season 2 podcasts that are already available are. Stick around for probably Wednesday or Thursday this week when we drop our hotline call show for this pod, for this episode of The Last of Us. Support our sponsors when we have them. We don't have any today, so be our sponsor and go to patreon.com/oystersclamscockles and subscribe. You can follow Mr. Dudley at Barrett Dudley, BarrettDudley on Instagram and Twitter. X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. I'm at WR Bolin on those same platforms. Our show is also on all of those platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Threads, X, Facebook. We're on the Book of Faces. Just search Oysters, Clams, and Cockles on your favorite social platform. We are there, unless it's Blue Sky, where we are still not.
Working on that, though.
Well, one day.
I'm sure.
Late. Yeah. I'm told Q4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you continued with your Andor watching at all?
Yes. Yeah. I'm through 5.
Okay. I'm through 4. I was a little down on the first 3 episodes. 4 really sucked me back in. I was like, this is the shit right here.
Oh, yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, 4
is... It's picking up.
Yeah, 4 really sucked me back in, and I was like, this is what I'm here for, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. So I'm very excited to get through 5 and 6 and then get back on the mic.
We'll do another Andor pod.
And chat about it.
Once we get through those ones. But yeah, no, it's been a good little 5-episode batch that I've seen so far. 5 episodes through. It's 12 in the season. So after 6, we'll be at the halfway point. If you're an F1 fan, check out Formula Bone, Bolin Media's F1 podcast, hosted by Jared J. Bone Borislow. If you are a Ross Bolin fan, that is me, check out the Ross Bolin podcast for more from me. Go to bolinmedia.com/shop to grab yourself some merch. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We look forward to hearing everyone's reactions on Patreon and reading them on social media. Until next time, remember, if you own Movell, you use Movell.